Do you hear that? That's the site of another joint discussion.
Hey, listeners. Welcome back to the next episode of Joint Discussions. I'm Lauren Wild, and I'm one of the co-hosts of this podcast, my other being the beautiful, wonderful James Mummert.
Oh, baby, that introduction is just so kind. This is indeed episode 8. We are on grade 8.
Do you remember when I was so excited when it was like episode 6? I was like, oh my God, we almost have 8.
Well, it was actually the last episode 7, that just was out last week.
Oh, okay.
And I remember it was a thing because we discussed how close to 8 we were. But we were actually at 7, but we have arrived to 8. Welcome. This is episode 8 of Joint Discussions. So happy to have you here. Baby, what are you sipping on tonight?
I have this thing called North Higher Vibes. It's pineapple orange. I've never had this one before, but you bought these because shout out to Jamie. He threw me an excellent surprise birthday party this past weekend, which I want to talk about for a moment as we crack open into this episode. And that is, for those of you guys that don't know us like personally, we're both Libras and we have a Libra sun. My best friend is a Libra. We are surrounded by Libras. And so starting on, Friday about 2 weeks ago, all the way into Saturday, we were just in like constant, consistent birthday energy. And it slowly but surely really started to get tiring.
Oh my God, it was exhausting because
so much cake.
We had your birthday on like the Tuesday.
Yep.
And then my birthday on Wednesday after we had just celebrated one of our kids' birthdays on the Friday prior. So really in 1 week's time, we have 3 birthdays in the house. And yeah, it was a lot because we did have the kids that week. It was great having them on our birthdays, but it also presented challenges that I'm sure we may get into a little bit tonight. Yeah. I want to say though that it was maybe not so much of a surprise party. You have some loose-lipped friends, and I have some loose-lipped friends, and you have some loose-lipped parents that sometimes struggle with keeping things secret. But it was, as far as some of the guests, that actually was a surprise for you.
Yeah, I was still surprised. He catered Chipotle, which is like one of my favorites, and I was so shocked that you went through that much like thought. And I mean, I was just so surprised that a man that I care about planned me a surprise birthday party. So I'm still reveling in all of it with so much gratitude.
Well, you're so welcome and you're so worth it. And you deserve to be celebrated, but this year as being number 40, it's only too poetic that we try to do that this year. And we did chores as a family the day of, try to get the house clean, because this was also coincidentally our first hosting of more than maybe just a couple, like 2 people. We had quite a bit, and it was a great time, and I'm so thankful that we had mostly a great day.
Yeah, I mean, besides the fact that my mom fell while riding an electric bicycle and literally snapped her wrist and had to have emergency ambulance and all the things for surgery for her wrist the day of.
The day of and mere hours before, I had just seen her that morning when she came and picked up our oldest to go hit some balls at the driving range. And just a few hours later, bam, we get the text.
We know now that next year we are going to plan kind of like one big birthday extravaganza because of how intense it was. But I mean, we could sit here and talk about how stressful it is trying to plan anything with so many kids. But I think that we should pick back up from where we were in our last episode. But first, babe, tell us a little bit about what you're drinking tonight.
Well, tonight I'm trying something I wouldn't normally drink. We had the party, so I had bought an assortment. So tonight I have Mars. It's a cherry sublime shrub soda.
Yeah, I'm so jealous because that's one of my favorite companies, but that one is 25 milligrams, and I would never come back.
You have mentioned that.
I know. But yeah, I think the flavor that they come up with is really good. So shout out to Mars Brewing Company for their THC beverages.
Shout out them, but only if they maybe start sponsoring us.
Oh my God,
Otherwise,
please.
shout out and then we move along because there's a lot of companies out there.
That's so true.
We're open for business, everyone.
Drecker Labs, for all of those fuels factories, please let me be a sponsor. Okay, I will stop now.
Yeah, we're getting back into last week's content. That we're continuing the conversation we started having about this big shift in our household.
Yeah. And facing what it looks like to deconstruct and destigmatize traditional gender roles in home, having like that mother figure and that father figure and those traditional roles of the masculine one being the breadwinner and the feminine one being the householder. That's kind of where we left off last one.
We spent a lot of time kind of on the shift from my perspective. We didn't get a lot of time to get into yours. Kind of what that has felt like for you. Again, to catch anyone up who maybe missed last week's episode, we went to one income in the family.
Yeah, I think that a lot of what we talked about was a lot of the invisible labor and the emotional aspects for you. And yeah, I think that it's a big, large conversation and discussion, and we're both pretty committed to staying transparent about our discussions with you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it.
It's a time of recording when we are just coming off of a kid week.
Such a hard
where
kid week.
Some of these dynamics that are in play played a big part of what our week looked like. Really, to get this kind of started off, I would love to know, we mentioned last week that trust was one of your biggest fears to get over or get through or work on when it came to these role swaps. What outside of that have you noticed yourself feeling maybe some anxiety or other feelings on due to this shift?
Yeah, I think that it still continues to come back to the concept of trust, no matter what, and I'll work my way around to that conclusion.
Okay, but
starting now.
that is something you've got to give us more. You
Yeah.
got to give me more because I heard trust again. But sometimes I like to say that to you, and just a concept of I need you to say more words so that I kind of understand. So trust, but say more.
When I think about destigmatizing the role around being a breadwinner and not, I love that you call it domestic family relations or something like that.
Domestic relations manager.
Yes, I love that. There is a sense of ease, mainly because the amount of work that I do as an entrepreneur and the amount of heavy emotional holding that I do in the kind of work that I do with people. It is so much easier to not also be trying to be the main person managing the emotions of everyone in the house. That has been very helpful to me, but at the same time, there is a lot of trust that goes into that. The person that's been playing the nurturing role their entire life to bring, honestly, a man in to play that role. And I just don't think it would work with any man that is emotionally unintelligent or unavailable. It just wouldn't work. You just happen to be that. One of the things that it still pushes on and brings up is how I watch, and I have this history because I've been the household holder, the manager, whatever, where I remember the exhaustion of cleaning the house and picking up all the kids' stuff after you've told them 50 million times, and you just feel so unappreciated and like a servant. And then the kids come home and you're still the main person calling them on their shit and keeping them accountable. You don't really get that break between going to work and then coming home and feeling kind of fresh. I don't necessarily feel like I get that either because I work from home. I don't feel like I really leave the scene. I definitely try to hunker down as much as I can in my office, but I can still hear everything. I can still sense them when they get home, all of those things. So it's definitely a process. And there's a lot to it where, because I know in a lot of ways emotionally where you're probably at, one of the things about like the householder is that, when dad gets home, I have big air quotes, he's gonna be the one that's gonna like put you guys in line. He's gonna kind of come like give me like a rescue, like pull me out of the water and like step in and like manage all these kids. And it's different. Number one, I don't leave home. And also, I'm not the enforcer. You are. In our household, you're the alpha and you are the enforcer. All of these boys, it is like a pack of wolves, guys. They listen to him and his like tone, I call it daddy voice, significantly more than mine. And so that's a very interesting thing where I feel like I have to consistently call you in all the time. And I just worry about like how that's going to affect you when you feel like you never get to come down, or you always have to be kind of like the bad guy. And I get to be like that soft kind of voice. I feel like it's like good cop, bad cop kind of swap, and it doesn't really get to happen.
But yeah, I have to kind of be bad cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Also the cop that picks up after their asses.
Yeah, I know. Because so many of the things that I feel like are challenging are mostly around things like the kids, but also the trust piece comes in, not so much about you. It's about me trusting me. It's about the intensity of the decision to be the person that everybody relies on to put food on the table and to pay our bills. It's really scary. And I think that, I feel like I'm going to cry. It's when you hit something. I feel like it's going to be a journey of trusting myself more and more, and also being more disciplined in my approach than I've ever been, and trusting that I can do that and not go like wide variety, but instead go deeper and be more masterful in my work versus being kind of shiny and like I've got this teaching, I got this workshop, I got this, and instead just like doubling and tripling down on the things that I have mastered. When you add in that I'm going to master something by staying hyper focused on this thing, and also you feel like you're sitting in front of a computer 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, it's really impacting the negative symptoms of my ADHD, especially the H in the ADHD. I feel trapped, like in my seat.
And that's something that we've acknowledged it, but we're working on putting that into action, is getting you outside for 30, 45 minutes, or not outside, at least moving. And that takes trust. It takes time. And you don't always feel like you have that, especially on kid weeks when there's so much going on and your day gets kind of broken up into a couple little parts because you still have to be involved in school, pick up and drop off. If you haven't been following along this entire time, we have 6 children in 5 different schools. The 5 children who live with us primarily are in 5 different schools in 2 different school districts, 30 minutes apart.
Yeah.
You mentioned how you kind of like sit down, you feel like you don't really leave. Sometimes for me, on my side, I leave and I'm gone for about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then I come back and it's almost 9 o'clock by that time. I got basically 9 to 2 o'clock to do stuff that needs to be done around the house, or that needs to be done for our production stuff or whatever. But that gets broken up in chunks too, knowing that I can't really get too deep into something because I'm right back out the door. Yeah. I can't keep that same focus. We have household chores and other things so there's so many things that are moving at one time. Yep. When I get home with 3 that I have to pick up, it's kind of chaos. You're back in the work seat, trying to at least.
Trying to.
We have 2 that are already home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for us to get everyone in a rhythm at one time when there's different arrivals and departures. And it interrupts your flow of work.
So much. It's insane. Like, and you got to find like new ways to think about it, or it will drive you insane. But like, that's, honey, why I brought you home. was because of the way that the mornings and the afternoons and the breaking up of the day was like, I will literally make more money by sitting my ass in my seat than I will by leaving in the middle of my day and picking them up and trying to get anything done. Nothing's going to get done.
Yeah, and when I was working priorly and we had this schedule, I was actually the school drop off time doesn't change, but I had to change and work later.
Yep.
I had to go in later and stay later, which meant that I wasn't getting home till 5:30 or 6, and by that time it was already chaos anyways. You couldn't even keep the hours that you were trying. It was just utter and pure chaos, and now we just have pure chaos. I think we maybe have dropped the utter part, but at times.
Yes, times. There's still a lot of utter chaos. I think that the majority of the challenges that, to kind of put it all into one little basket is the majority of the problems that I have from stepping into the breadwinner role is really inside of me. It's not so much external to me anymore. To be frank, I had excuses previously, which was like, my energy's broken up. I mean, it is still broken up by morning drop off and afternoon. That is not a lie. It does make it hard to be focused when you're doing that. Because I used to have a bus, guys. Like the bus used to pick up and drop off. And that was actually very important to me. It is more so the fact that I feel this extreme pressure and intensity around the fact that if I fail or if I don't do something and hit a goal, it's going to impact our entire family. And I mean, that makes me want to cry even saying it out loud. And it's not like I've never been a breadwinner before. I've been a single mom for like 5 years. It's just.
But what
different.
You're saying is that you don't have excuses anymore in the realm of what you just said. You are no longer a breadwinner and single parent. Yeah. You are now a breadwinner in a partnership that has full buy-in from both parties.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that being a single parent is an excuse, like as in a like negative. It is a very valid reason to have a lot of feelings when you're and struggles when you're trying to both breadwin and take care of the house and parent and be there for yourself even.
Yeah, I think that for any other single mom that merges, and you may feel this feeling of like, in a lot of ways, some parts of being a single parent were easier because you were not also trying to relate to another person. You're kind of always on. When I was single parenting, it was like when I'm done, I could go in my room and veg. I didn't have to talk. I could keep dinners pretty relatively simple. It was just the four of us, and we'd usually watch TV and keep our routine like that. And it's just different now. So
it's really interesting though, because can I push back a little?
Sure.
Like you say that, and I hear that in a way that maybe says I was able to not have to show up to another adult. Whereas I'm thinking like,
definitely
being a single parent, sometimes I want another adult to talk to desperately because I'm only getting interactions with preteens.
Yeah, and I remember that feeling when I was in my first marriage and it was just me and the kids and they didn't really talk a lot. They were kind of toddlers and I just craved so badly like deep and meaningful conversation. But now I have a job and a career that is constantly full of deep emotional intensity that like when I clock out, I don't really seek it anymore. Like I want things to be easy and I love our children so much, but they're not fucking easy.
Neither is your partner. But your partner also needs you to be able to have emotional intensity, and you do.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing for you. Absolutely. I recognize that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it just, in a lot of ways, on the weeks we have our kids, especially, it feels like I can never turn off. I was actually talking about this with my friends. James was so kind as to like handle by choice all 6 kids on Sunday so I could spend time with my friends in the woods. And I just kind of shared about, and again, I definitely feel like it's going to make me cry, where it's like I have hit my absolute capacity between the now super intensive drive that we have one income for a family of 8 in a potential
recession, and also that the work that I do, and like this should be something we talk about more, but that is, we're entrepreneurs. So it's not like I work for a corporation where I know exactly what the paycheck's going to be every single month. There are certain parts of it that are very consistent and planned, but then there are parts of it that are very not. And so that entrepreneurial stress in a time like this, when I just feel like every moment of my day is emotionally overwhelmed, it is just a lot. It's just so much. And trying to figure out like where to offload, when it feels like there's not enough time to do fitness, there's not enough time to come down. Those are like the real things that are where I have to keep coming back to is trust, is like, I can trust that my partner can hold me too. I can trust that my partner is going to have my back and double down. And also, I need to trust myself and my skills and my expertise and not get lost in the sauce of fear because it's not even fucking effective. Those are the things where I keep coming back to is like, I have to trust.
That's the name of our episode, our little 2-part series that we're releasing is trust. And there's not a lot of trust in our household overall, though, and the entirety of the household when we include children. That we've had a lot of things going on lately that have really rocked that ship, all while we're still navigating this new shift.
Yeah, but I don't feel like my trust in you has been rocked.
I'm not saying that the trust in us has been rocked. I'm saying the trust in our children and some of the process of trying to work towards this. How are we going to efficiently run a house of 7/8 on one income and me and you not go insane and not raise entitled brats and do all the things that we need to do.
Yeah.
And we had a really rough week.
Yeah, we really did, guys. And I'm definitely, even like as we're in this discussion, like I feel like I'm actually just now really processing it. So enjoy the show, I guess. I think there are some things that were consistent before, even like a month ago. And I think that when they went to school and some of them went to middle school and got girlfriends and things like that, like just some hormonal shifts have happened where you can tell that they're kind of trying to challenge and pull apart and become individuals and things like that, that I feel like a lot of what was kind of consistent in our family unit has changed.
We've identified that each child has their own kind of expressive way when they have emotions that they have trouble naming. Some get really hyper and kind of like fearful of like something is wrong. Some of them actually just, some of them get shut down. But we've had this leader emerge.
Yeah.
I'm dancing around it a little bit.
You are definitely dancing around it.
We have a leader of the children now. We have talked, it's like a pack of wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's an alpha wolf.
That's you.
There is, but then there's an alpha cub.
Yeah, well, he's fighting for that alpha spot.
But he's the current alpha. You watch any Planet Earth documentary, and Sir David Attenborough narrates when there is a current alpha or leader and a challenger.
Yeah.
We don't have a challenger yet. Right now, he is kind of the unchallenged, but he's doing it in a way that it's like not very smart.
No.
In fact, if all of the other children, they should just sit back and watch because this is a very terrible way of doing it.
Yeah.
And not a way to keep a leadership spot or to keep that status. In fact, he's just, we have middle schoolers and high schoolers and so much emotions and decisions that are being driven by emotions that I haven't had to parent with yet.
Yeah.
The emotions of affection, puppy love, these kind of teenage romantic things.
Oh, yeah. I was like, puppy love? What do you mean?
Yeah, but managing their emotions of having that, kids have not had a relationship before. There hasn't been that dynamic present.
Yeah.
But that dynamic has complicated the rest of the dynamics, schoolwork wise,
Yep.
attention at home, ability or desire to do things that are needed to be done. All of it is being driven and kind of blew up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that hormones and, like it's very normal for the evolution of kids, as they get older, that they want to separate and individuate from their parents and have their own beliefs. And in a lot of ways, we really want to instill that because it prevents cult mindsets and, encouraging them to kind of have their own values and their own sense of personality. It, in the long run, keeps them from having like this kind of groupthink mind, which is one of the best ways to prevent children from getting brought into cults or getting into, these groups where men are radicalizing young boys. You don't want to stop it completely. You want them to individuate. It's a normal part of human evolution. But at the same time, some of these things are quite manipulative. The tactics that are not healthy and are not going to lead to long-term strategies is going to get him anywhere. It's just going to get him in a shit ton of trouble.
It has and will continue to get him in a shit ton of trouble. I think a lot of people can empathize in some ways with being the trailblazer, being the first one to do and experience this. You fuck up a lot.
Yeah.
Thankfully for us, this is a fuck up in a controlled environment of childhood.
Yeah.
It's not one of those adult fuck ups.
Yeah, where he goes into prison or something. We can't do anything about it.
Correct. But it has been a struggle on us. And it's been really interesting because as we've been in these kind of gender swap roles, we've identified that we kind of need somewhat of a utilitarian run of things, kind of like we are literally raising a little military.
Yeah, like it is, you got to figure out where you can be efficient by having just standardized expectations, standardized, like you wake up, you make your bed, you make your breakfast, you get your clothes on. Do not divert from the standard. And then the thing that I feel like has some sense of like person individuality too is the way that they need to be talked to and talked through their emotions, and the way they want to spend quality time is quite different. Some of them like want to talk and they want to show you their art and they want you to like talk back and forth and they want to feel very, very seen. And then some of them are very different. They don't really want to talk. They want to like just show you things. They're just all so different. And that's where we're like, there is no way. And then I like find myself looking at shit like, how did the Duggars do it? What you find when you look up like how big families survive is that they do have like standards, and then they basically employ the older children to basically be in charge quite a lot.
And by employ, you mean not pay for shit.
Yeah.
Force child labor to raise the youngest children.
That's not what I'm saying we would do. I mean, they get a shit ton of allowance, to be honest, from us for very little. Very little in exchange.
I mean, I see where you're going with the Duggar thing. We are a larger family. There's no way around it. Like, once you get into at least a basketball team worth of children, that's a lot of management. And it's not the same kind of jump from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. You now have 5 schedules, and like we just said, we have 5 children in 5 different schools.
I didn't even think about that today, babe, until you said that.
Well, I've been thinking about it every day for the last several weeks. And that's something that we agreed that we were going to take on for this year, hoping that next year maybe changes. But that's okay. So I digress on the 5-on-5 thing. But it just kind of shows what 5 children look like for logistics, for what you need. And so, yeah, like we've said, we kind of need to operate on some things that are like very strict and scheduled, while also being able to shine on their personalities. And in the meantime, also providing proper father authoritative figures that some of them have had a huge lack of.
Definitely.
There's so many things at play, and this shit takes a toll.
The thing I keep coming back to, part of this whole gig is to share honestly where we're at and hopefully also share some insights to help you along your own path. It feels a lot like the saying around like you have to put the mask over yourself first, or you won't be a lot like you will pass out before you can put the masks on your children. Have you ever heard of that saying where
Well,
it's
I
like,
think you're maybe getting at like the airplane that drops the oxygen mask
exactly.
where you have to put it over yourself first before the others.
because you could pass out and then nobody's going to get oxygen? It feels very similar at this point where I'm recognizing the impact on my mental health. When I think about like, I can't lose my mental health when I need to give wise, clear advice for a living to pay the bills. It's like, I have to protect my mental health. I have to protect my peace. We have to have these boundaries with the kids because then they're not going to have a parent to put the oxygen mask on them. We're just not going to be there because they've worn us out or, you know, whatever. That in a lot of ways, what we have to do to protect our own mental health is because we have a really big family and neither one of us, I mean, we both have 3 kids. So neither one of us were in the world where it's like you have a basketball team that you got to manage. 3 to 6 was a big jump. Like that's a big jump for real.
It's a huge jump. It is so much. And the mental health aspect is very real. We have talked about how we have this 2-week pendulum. This is a week where we happen to be in. We don't record on weeks with our kids. So I guess we should just like say that.
Definitely.
There's no time for that ever. So we record on non-kid weeks. So these weeks are weeks of reflection, of recuperation, of recovery. And it is good for the mental health, absolutely. But what we are finding, or at least, I mean, I know I'm finding, and I think you would agree for sure, is that we need to take our mental health more seriously on the weeks that we have the kids.
Yeah.
This past whole week, but really the tail end of it, I was recognizing that I was having a moment where I wasn't sitting down. I wasn't getting to do literally anything. Yeah. And the kids just would never stop. Like
They won't.
It doesn't matter. They would keep asking and asking and asking, and they don't recognize that, which it's hard to fault them fully for, given that they're children and don't really have some of that emotional intelligence really in tuned yet.
Yeah.
And it really kind of came to a head on my birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not fair.
We had your birthday the night before. The kids were actually on pretty top-notch behavior.
Yeah, I do. I think they were.
Now, that kind of worked because I threatened their asses like no other. Because that's what you do.
I don't. I mean, I guess I can.
No, that's what you do to kids.
Yeah.
Well, you can do to kids. I attempted to call out the behavior that I knew that they were going to fall victim to. And that is the me syndrome.
Yeah.
The main character syndrome.
Yeah.
I literally named it.
Yeah, main character
and
energy.
I said, tomorrow is your mother/stepmother's birthday. She is the main character tomorrow for the entire day. What you need is not the most important thing. What you want is definitely not the most important thing. The spotlight should be on her. And they did a great job.
I feel like they did a great job.
But all of that ran out.
Yes, they only had
day
one
2
day.
of that.
They only had one day in them, honey. Like, they could not manage it beyond one day.
And it would have been okay if that was something where we chose to celebrate at our house.
Yeah.
But we didn't. In fact, we went out and had what was taste-wise, entertainment, in-house-wise, top-notch. I loved it. I loved the company.
Hibachi.
We had hibachi, and we had a chef. Chef Eddie, he's on TikTok.
Yes.
Chef Eddie, I'm calling you out, bud, because he was actually streaming on TikTok.
Yep.
Our kids found him because he was working the opposite hibachi table in the little twosome that they put the pods in. So our kids found him streaming. He had like something like several thousand people watching him while we were there. And you had requested the good guy, and he comes over. And so Chef Eddie on TikTok, give him a follow. I have 4 followers on TikTok. He said he would help me out, but I'm giving him some cross promotion. He is very good at his job. So that was so much fun. But our kids were rather maddening.
Yeah, so I was trying to play the role that James did the day before where I'm threatening them to show up for their dad. And instead, we just got meltdown after meltdown and stonewalling and a lack of patience that turned into meltdown city. We didn't even get to do cake and ice cream that night because they were just beyond comprehension tired. Like they just could not function.
Well, I even got to a point where I said, I don't really want to do gifts.
Yeah.
We waited until the very end.
Yeah.
You know, maybe in hindsight, that wasn't the greatest thing to do something at 9:00 at night.
Yeah. I mean,
but
we're in like a big learning phase around stuff like that on school nights, though.
Absolutely. And we know for facts we cannot do birthdays back-to-back nights on school nights for sure. It's a lot to ask on them and us, but it was worth it. You know, you have these experiences, they're worth it. And how are we going to know until we know?
Yeah. I think, though, I want to kind of circle back around to this conversation around like how we are becoming more and more consistently aware that our method needs to be kind of almost like a military level response that is like a consistent response no matter what, that's like across the board. And we don't have kids that are like across the board. They are very different. They process different. Both you and I, James, are emotionally intelligent and concerned about like how we might impact them later in life. We're almost too aware is what I'm kind of struggling with, is like every time that they feel the wall that is, I'm not going to feed into, you know, your madness or your methods, which is stonewalling or slamming doors or whatever the thing is. I'm not going to give you what you want, which is for me to change my mind or to, you know, whatever their tactic is that when they feel that like solid wall of one response, they just cannot. They do not know how to handle that. They're so used to both of us working with each kid in their own individual way. And when they don't get that, they just don't know how to function. And then it turns into some sort of behavior that is even less efficient to get what they want.
We have said we need kind of a military structure in ways. And the trade-off to that, the military mindset, I've even told some of the kids, like it is, if one person fucks up, everybody pays.
Yeah.
That would blow them up right now.
Oh my God, I know.
If we instituted that. But that's how we have to get to at some point. There's a lot of good things that come with a military mindset. I think what we ultimately will adapt, given that we are both emotionally intelligent, is this military mindset plus. Like where I'm adding a
the
plus.
Emotional edition.
The emotional edition, right? There's ways to be authoritative, utilitarian, while also creating safe spaces for conversations about our feelings and naming those things. It can exist there. It's just getting to that point is a hell of a bitch.
Yeah, and I think that I keep coming back to things like we need like a Camp Wild Mummert handbook. Like we don't divest from this. These are the standards we expect. Here's the consequences. Here's the expectations. Here's the reward system. This is what it is, guys, to keep coming back to because they want to keep negotiating with us. And that's where it's so exhausting, is that we're negotiating in all these very different ways for 5 kids all the fucking time that it's, I mean, like, it's just, they have us right now. Like, they have us.
I see it like a union negotiation.
Yeah.
we have to unionize them.
Yeah.
And right now they're fighting for individual rights.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have to unionize them. So
Yeah.
we're forcing a union onto them. And that's what we have to do in order to survive. That doesn't mean that we can't give concessions, but that means we have to write those concessions that we know might pertain to a particular child or instance in this contract.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, well, you said this, you said that.
Yeah.
I agree. We have to have a handbook. We have to have an actual thing that we can reference. You may call it a Bible. You may call it a handbook. Maybe call
I'm
it a manual.
so not good on a Bible. Please.
I'm good there too.
We can call it a handbook, or I don't know. The handbook makes me think of Wayward. For those of you guys that have watched Wayward on Netflix, I really liked that show.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be a season 2, I think.
I hope so. But and speaking of season 2, I know it's time to start getting ready to wrap up here. Obviously, we can have conversations on this topic for a very long amount of time. And so, as always, we show up real, authentic. We want to discuss the challenges that we have, whether we have solutions or not. And I can pretty clearly articulate that as of right now, we're still in the solution finding part. We don't have like across the board solutions for you guys. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of like calling out in the world that it's, if you have found a way, to have kind of an across the board expectation with your kids, what did that look like? How to implement that? I'm super open to that.
Well, I think you should just say we are, because now that might imply that I'm not super open to that.
James is interested too. And maybe we'll start working on building our handbook and bring that into the Patreon community.
Well, yeah, you know how I like a good document. I'm a document man myself. So, yeah, if you haven't checked out our Patreon yet, you should give it a follow or a look. Joint Discussions Pod. Give us a look in our community. We're giving some behind the scenes things, kind of behind the scenes looks, not really so much about the podcast itself, but about what goes on in our life a little bit.
Yeah.
Get to know us a little bit more, connect a little bit on that level. You guys are like a family to us. And
yeah. And in a lot of ways, I'm asking that our family resource us. We are not experts. We're just people sharing our story along the way and what insights we do have. And part of community is also receiving resourcing as well. And so join our community and make sure you're following us on all the socials at Joint Discussions Pod, anywhere you go. We're so excited that we got to have you this week, and we cannot wait to reconnect with you guys next week. Ciao.